Hey, you guys. So we're going to go over our Unit 1 review of real numbers. Make sure you have your Desmos calculator handy with you, or your TI, whatever you guys have. But definitely recommend the Desmos calculator either online or on your phone, whichever one will work. So number one, the number of known insects is in scientific notation to the right. 5.1 times 10 to the fifth power. What is the standard form? So we know with scientific notation we have two parts. Our first factor is a number between 1 and 10, which we have here at 5.1. Then we know that we have an exponent, positive or negative, with your base 10. So the exponent of 5 tells me that my number is going to get larger. My decimal is going to move to the right because it's positive. If my exponent is negative, it tells me that my number is less than 1, very small. It's going to move to the left. So here, I'm going to use my finger down here, you guys. So excuse me for 1 second. So 5.1 times 10 to the fifth. I'm going to move my decimal 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to plug zeros in my holes. And I know that with place value, every third digit is a comma moving from right to left. So this is going to give me 510,000. If you want to use your calculator, which you're more than welcome to do so, 5.1 times 10 raised to the fifth power will give you 510,000 as well. So the calculator is going to be very helpful for you to double check your answers. Make sure your solution is absolutely correct. Number two, the estimated age of Earth is 4.6 billion years old. What is Earth's age thought to be in scientific notation? So I'm going to move this calculator up. So here, I know that for scientific notation, my first factor must be a number between 1 and 10. 46 is greater, so I can scratch that out immediately. 4600s is less. I can scratch that out. Those are two answers I don't even need to look at or evaluate because they don't even meet the qualifications of being in scientific notation. So I'm looking at 4 and 6 tenths times 10 to the ninth power, 4 and 6 tenths times 10 to the eighth power. So I'm going to go ahead and place my decimal here, and it's already here as well if you need it. But I'm going to see how many times that I move it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I know that 4.6 billion is equivalent to 4.6 times 10 to the ninth power. If you put that in your decimals calculator, it's going to just pop out the same thing just because the number is so large. So you're really going to make sure that you're counting your decimal places. As you can see, and Miss Hawkins made a mistake. That should be 4.6. So 4.6 times 10 to the ninth power is going to be equal to that because the number is already very large. All right, so keep going. Got my calculator here. Bring it down so we can see number 3. Which two whole numbers does the square root of 2 lie between in the number line? So Ms. Hawkins, like the little geek, I like to actually do this by hand. And so your teacher may have taught you by hand, but I'm going to show you by hand and calculator. So we're looking for the perfect square before and after 2. We know that the square root of 1 is the perfect square before 2, and the square root of 4 is the perfect square after 2. The square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 4 is 2. So on my number line, I know that the square root of 2 is going to lie in between 1 and 2 on my number line. Okay, 1 and 2 on my number line. Let's take a look at our decimals calculator. So I'm going to have the square root of 2. It gives me 1.41, which is going to be like somewhere, not quite in the middle, but almost in the middle. Okay, so that's going to be where it falls on the number line. And of course, I'm going to select between 1 and 2. All right, I'm going to move this up a little bit so I can get number 4. Which two whole numbers does the square root of 8 lie between on the number line? Okay, so which two numbers does the square root of 8 lie between on the number line? So I'm going to go ahead and put the square root of 8 in my calculator, and I get 2.82. So I know that it's going to be right here, very close to 3. Again, the square root before is going to be 4. The square root after is going to be 9, or the perfect squares rather. Writing with my finger, so it's a little bit silly. So this is 2, and this is going to be 3. I know since the square root of 8 is close to the square root of 9, my answer is going to be closer to 3. All right, next one. Which number line best illustrates the square root of 27? I'm going to put this in my calculator, you guys. Square root of 27, 5.19. Looking at my number lines here, this is -4. This is somewhere in the middle between 3 and 4. Bingo. All right. Which real number could best represent point B on the number line? So I'm going to move my calculator up. All right, so here I'm looking at B. It's between 3 and 4. So I'm going to put this in my calculator. So I have 7.8 divided by 2. That gives me 3.9. I also have enter 0.35 times 10. That gives me, times 10, excuse me, 3.5. The next one's going to be the square root of 15. 3.87, and then the last one's the square root of 10, 3.16. I know that B is dead smack in the middle of between 3 and 4, so if I go back and compare all of my real numbers as decimals, the one that looks the best to me is going to be this one. So 3/500 times 10 is going to be my answer there. All right, so now we're looking at number 7 and 8. Which point does A represent on the number line? So again, going back to my decimals calculator here. So A is going to be -4. I can clearly see that. So I'm going to just try to evaluate everything else. The square root of 4 is equal to 2. Oh, that's ugly. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. All right, so the square root of 4 is equal to 2. Okay, and then 24 divided by 6 is equal to 6. So I know both of those are silly answers because clearly I'm looking at -4 on my number line. So now you can use what you know about squares and square roots. You can also use your calculator to evaluate these as well. When you're putting these in the calculator, this is the square root of 4. You want to start off with your negative sign, square root of 4. What this does is it first evaluates the square root of 4, which is 2, and then it pops a negative sign to it. So the negative square root of 4 is -2. Going back to my calculator, negative sign, square root of 16. Again, it first evaluates the square root of 16, then pops the negative out. So the square root of 16 is 4. Pop out that negative. And so we know that this is -4, so I know that this one's going to be my answer. Number 8, 1 yard is equivalent to 0.000568 miles. Express this number in scientific notation. Thinking back to what we know, what we talked about in questions 1 and 2, we know that this is a very small number. So since it's very small, my exponent must be negative. So off top, these are going to be my two answers that I don't even need to look at. It don't even make any sense because their exponents are both positive. And then the second choice, this one here, 568, is not even in scientific notation form. Now I'm just going to count. Remember, your decimal goes after your first non-zero number you see. My first non-zero number you see is going to be 5, so my decimal will go here. And so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And it moves to the left 4 times, so 5 6/800 times 10 to the -4 is going to be that solution. All right, so number 9. Here's going to be one that probably concerns your math teacher. I'll just stick this right here so you guys can see because I kind of want to blow it up just a little bit more. This is going to be solely calculator skills, you guys. So we're using our calculator. You're going to enter these 4 expressions in, and it's going to pop you out an answer. You need to tell me or your teacher in descending order which would be third. Now you also have to know what descending order means. Descending order means we're going from greatest to least, from big to small. If you've ever been on an airplane, you heard the pilot say, we are X amount of feet in the air and we're going to descend into our destinations. That means we're going down. Your left and right arrows here on this calculator skill is going to be very important. So the first one is going to be 2 times the square root of 5 plus 4. So 2 parentheses the square root of 5. Notice I'm going to click my right arrow because I want to separate the addition of 4. And then I'm going to close my parentheses, and that gives me this. I want to show you something else. If you don't use your arrows to separate it, the square root of 5 plus 4 is going to take into account the whole entire, let me go back here. It's going to take into account everything that's underneath your radical sign. So 5 plus 4 is 9. The square root of 9 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. These are two totally different equations, so you're going to want to use your left and right arrows to separate the pieces of your equation. So I'm going to keep going. Now I have the square root of 1, right arrow, plus 2. I have the square root of 169. And then I also have 1 1/4 times pi divided by 2, right arrow, parentheses. So now I'm looking from greatest to least. I can see that the square root of 169 is 13. That would be first. 2 times the square root of 5 plus 4 would be second. The square root of 1 plus 2 would be the third in order. So that's going to be this one here. Taking a look here, you could use your calculator, but you really don't need it. So we're looking for which answer choice contains all irrational numbers. So we're looking for those irrational numbers, numbers that cannot be written as a fraction that, can sometimes not even really make sense to us. In our first answer choice, I can eliminate this off top. The square root of 36 is 6. So this has a rational number. 4 divided by 2, 2 has a rational number. Here, all three of these numbers are decimals. I can write these as fractions. The square root of 2 is irrational, but the other three are not. Option 3, 15 divided by 3 is 5. That's automatically wrong. Here, I've got pi, which is a astronomically long number. The square root of 19 is imperfect because it's not a perfect square. Same thing with 12, not a perfect square. And this decimal has numbers that go on and on forever. So this is going to be our answer choice. All right, and so now we're down to our last two equations here. So I'm going to take a look at the square root of 21, rounded to the nearest thousands place. So square root of 21, I get 4.582. Remember, when we're rounding, the number next to it will determine if it goes up, down, or stay the same. So this 5 causes this 2 that's in the thousands place to round up. So 4.583 would be my answer here. And the last one, again, calculator skill. So we're going to evaluate these three to see which one has the greatest value. So negative the square root of 12 is going to give me negative 3.46. Then I have 2.5 times 10 to the negative first power, which is going to give me a quarter. Sorry, negative sign. Okay. And then last one, negative square root of 25 is going to give me negative 5. So if I'm evaluating these three numbers, I'm looking for which one is the largest. I've got a negative, positive, and a negative. And if I'm comparing that, I know that my positive is going to be the largest number here. So here's your answer. Well, I hope this helped you guys prep for your test. If you remember the questions that you got incorrect, scroll through this video and take a look at those questions. Take a look at the explanation. Also, go into your notebook. That's going to be the biggest resource for you. If your teacher doesn't have an interactive notebook, then you can always check Google Classroom for all the videos and resources that we have posted. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to get with your teacher. Ask questions. Please don't wait until the last minute. And thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it, and you have a good day.